In this video, I'm going to go over some of the most recent Bethesda news, of which there's actually quite a bit to cover. Discontent with the company and somewhat the game has been rising over the past weeks, and it really hit a boiling point today as the Fasnacht Parade event was delayed due to some problems associated with it that were noticed just after it launched. We're going to go over that and exactly how community tensions got to the point they are right now. So in this video, we're going to go over all of that and even a little bit more. If you guys do enjoy, you can get subscribed. We are very close to 500,000 subscribers, or even follow me on Twitter. We're starting to get into peak speculation period, especially with some of these big game announcements, and for several things. They're not worth a video, but I do tweet my thoughts on them. And my Twitter is also pretty close to 10K, which would be another great milestone to hit. But without further ado, let's first take a look again at the Treasure Hunter event. I talked about this first when it came out this past Thursday. If you're not familiar with the event, basically now in the Ash Heap region, these little Treasure Hunter mole miners will spawn. They'll drop a legendary item as well as one of 3 different pails, a dusty, regular, or ornate pail, with the higher 2 actually having new and unique items, but all of them giving you some item in game. I want to start with this one because it really was the first piece of somewhat substantial new content we got for Fallout 76 after Wastelanders, and it really didn't land with the community. Although it's not really taking anything away from the game, it's just adding a free new event on top, a lot of people had expectations for this one, and it really just didn't deliver. The legendary items you could get from these treasure hunters will always be low level because they can't spawn at high levels, capped at level 40. So even if you get a great legendary while farming, it's not really usable because, again, it's not the max level. It's kind of hard to naturally do the event because you just have to aimlessly wander around the ash heap looking for these guys. So it's much more grindy than past ones. But even further, one of the big complaints is it seems like this event was almost balanced around Fallout 76 holistically. And that is to say, some of the prices and costs as well as drop chances for these pails are really high. To get any of the new rewards, which I went over comprehensively in my past video, you have to either find the regular or ornate pail. And most people have been farming the ornate pails because they have the highest likelihood of dropping the new items. You could find these naturally just from a drop, which is really rare, or alternatively, many have taken to actually buying the pails and crafting them. Except to craft an ornate pail costs over 4,000 caps, which is double what we saw from the Scorched event from last year. That coupled with the fact that the drop chances still are extremely low in the single-digit percents. I mean, people are dumping their entire inventory worth of 30,000 caps and getting nothing new, or just 1 or 2 new items out of the 8 available. And then on top of all of that, player vending has been disabled for a week and a half, so people aren't generating as much caps as they typically would anyway. And this has really led to a lot of frustration. It feels like the event was focused around those who just have absurd amounts of caps, being able to throw hundreds of thousands of caps at this event, because that's really only one of the consistent ways to actually get some of these unique drops. But of course, for most normal players, that is unfeasible, and even just for a typical player with only one 30,000 cap limit, that's going to be pretty hard. It also seems like there might be some issues with the RNG when it comes to the loot here. This is very surface level, so take it somewhat with a grain of salt, but some users who actually are spending hundreds of thousands of caps on this have noticed something odd where statistically they should be getting more of these new rare items than they actually are. And like somehow the odds may be tied to certain servers, and then server hopping odds went up or they had better drops from them. But again, most of this is player reports, so I would take it with a grain of salt, although some initial data mining has been done into this suggesting that there could be something going on there. And although no way has been found to dupe these pails, and there really isn't a widely known dupe glitch at least right now, considering the past holiday gifts were so widely duped, people now functionally have unlimited caps. You max yourself at the 30,000, open a bunch more gifts, which they have many of, and you could just constantly buy ornate pails. So there's no dupe, but there are issues in that regard. So overall with this initial event, there was a lot of feedback around how it could be improved, just making it so treasure hunters weren't a limited time event, but rather a permanent but rare addition to the game. Or just raising their level, extending it to other regions, not locking you down to the ash heap, which doesn't really have a lot going on. Well, Bethesda did respond somewhat, mentioning how they've seen requests from the community asking for more time to take part in the hunt for the treasure hunter, so it was extended to 12 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. So although this extension isn't really a bad thing, it kind of is a positive thing in a way. I think the fact that it was so out of touch with what actual community requests were kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. Invariably, yes, some users were requesting for the event to be extended, but that definitely wasn't one of the chief concerns or even one of the popular requests for the event. Many of the posts on the event really just kind of abandoned it or gave up on it, describing how they were no longer that interested in doing it, not wishing for it to be longer. So there was already some community discontent following the treasure hunter event, although a lot of people were really excited for today, as today would mark the return of the Fasnacht Parade event in Fallout 76. Which historically, when it was present last year, was probably one of the most wholesome and just fun and community-focused events that the game has seen thus far. So at around noon today, the Fasnacht event started, which was kind of odd because it wasn't supposed to start until 1 p.m. The parade itself would basically be identical to how it was in past years, except users pretty quickly started to notice an issue with the event. One of the first stages of Fasnacht is to kill little critters to get their intestines, and that progresses the event overall. And it was discovered how on some servers, these little creatures or critters were just not spawning. There'd be none there, and in turn, you couldn't get enough intestines to progress the event. It would expire and end. So roughly 1 hour after the event began, Bethesda did disable it, posting on Reddit as well as their official forums. Due to the issue being reported here that is preventing critter spawns during certain objectives, we're going to disable Fasnacht Parade until we can implement a fix. We'll reschedule the event once we have the fix ready to go. And that's large in part where it stands right now. It's not totally clear either A, when this will be fixed, or B, if it's going to be back up in like a week, or are we talking a month down the line? I think people seeing that wording of it's going to be rescheduled makes it seem like it might be a little bit farther away. But things get worse in this regard, as you can pretty quickly see, critters not spawning, especially those little miscellaneous creatures, was an issue that has been reported numerous times around Fallout 76, and is just in general an issue with the game sometimes. Posts have popped up linking many other posts where this was reported over the past few weeks, in large in part since the Wastelanders update. And then of course the criticism towards Bethesda as to why wasn't this fixed, or alternatively, what's the point of the PTS if you're still going to have major issues like this? So the explanation as to what exactly is happening here seems to be one of server memory. The Fallout 76 servers use memory while running, but if servers are up for a long time or have a lot of things going on, a ton of NPCs spawned all throughout the world, things start to get a little bit weird. You might notice lag, you might notice talking to NPCs takes a bit longer, or one of the first things Bethesda cuts off on servers like this are miscellaneous or minor critter spawns, or at least based off data mines thus far, that's what it seems like. No more critters are spawning due to server load, which may be due to a server being up for a really long time or just a lot of stuff happening all at once on that server. And that's why you were only seeing it on some servers and basically never on private servers. The event was large in part working perfectly on private servers because, well, it's a private server. It's just you and your friends on the server, not nearly the load of a public server that may have been up for the past 24 hours. And this is not a new issue. Actually, in a patch all the way earlier in February of last year, Bethesda did make some changes around this system, describing how as we work on world servers that have been running for a long time and hitting some lag issues, we'll be performing maintenance on those servers more frequently. So basically servers that have been up for a long time will get put down for maintenance and basically restart to reset themselves. Although evidently in this particular instance it wasn't working frequently enough. Or simply Bethesda could have just done a comprehensive reset real quick before Fasnacht and things probably would have large in part been okay. But it also does explain somewhat why it wasn't noticed in the PTS. PTS servers don't have nearly as much load on them, and in turn an issue like this wouldn't be nearly as present or represented. So now as far as a fix goes, I don't know exactly how they'll fix this, if it'll be a proper comprehensive fix, making it so servers restart or reduce their load in different or better ways, but I would imagine one of the reasons they kind of just cut it off today was it's a holiday, at least in the US where BGS Austin, the devs of the game, are based. So that may be why we got such a snappy decision to just delay it more or less indefinitely. And when you couple all of that with the fact that player vending is still down, which has been very frustrating for a lot of people, now approaching a week and a half, and also there's a limited time Nuclear Winter event going on, and in Nuclear Winter you could find still a lot of hackers. There hasn't been nearly enough additional anti-cheat with Wastelanders. You come to the breaking point that we find ourselves at today, with a ton of backlash going Bethesda's way. People citing canceling their Fallout First decision to kind of send a message to Bethesda, or really just overall frustration hitting the highest levels it's been at in a long time, especially following Wastelanders. And even just as a metric on this, you can actually see Bethesda's responses on Reddit are all getting pretty heavily downvoted, which of course is not typical. So that's large in part what's going on. That's what's led to some of the large-scale backlash we're starting to see around the game right now. As far as my own thoughts or take on this, I feel like it's kind of a mixed bag. But to be honest, I'm really not surprised this happened. I said it before Wastelanders, and I actually said it right after Wastelanders. For Bethesda to find long-term success, or really a recovery with Fallout 76, for it to be regarded as just a good game, they had to address issues on multiple fronts. The content side of Wastelanders really did land. People loved the new quests and the amount of content that was added in. Bethesda had to do nothing super controversial, and although the endgame grind does have some pushback, it's not everyone's favorite, and I've basically given up on it because I just don't enjoy it anymore. There were no super egregious pay-to-win aspects, but then the third major pillar, at least in my eyes, was bugginess and exploits, things like anti-cheat and making sure dupes are cut down on and the responses are better testing for updates. And this is the area Bethesda has really fallen short on over the past couple of weeks. Having core features like vending machines being disabled for extended durations is just not good. I honestly don't really know how it's still disabled. I imagine it's a high priority for them to get that fixed, and I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been thus far. But other things like the same exact cheating going on in Nuclear Winter. Either abandon the mode or fix it properly on PC. The hacking is large in part a PC exclusive problem, but it's still really frustrating. And the fact that it's just almost been perpetually broken on PC because the lack of good anti-cheat basically since release is pretty ridiculous. But that is not some small indie company. This is something that should be addressed. Especially if they wanted at one point people to actually take the Battle Royale mode seriously against other Battle Royale contenders. And I think really why the frustration is so high right now is just the mixture of several of these things all happening at the same time, which hopefully I conveyed in this video. If it was just player vending, people would get over it. If it was just Fasnacht, people would get over it. If Treasure Hunter was the only disappointing event, people would get over it. But when you have all of that and the Nuclear Winter hacking at the same time, it's just really hitting a certain point with players. I think it'll be really interesting to see Bethesda's responses to this, to get quick and snappy updates or hotfixes. Seems pretty easy to fix. In the next couple of days, they get back into the office, just make a big post saying, sorry, we messed up. This is when Fasnacht will come back. This is when we're shooting to have vending back. And these are the changes we're going to make to Treasure Hunter events in future iterations. Thank you for your feedback. If they posted something like that, I think fans would large in part rejoice and feel a bit more confident about the future of this game. But for one reason or another, Bethesda's PR when it comes to Fallout 76 has just been questionable at best. A lot of curious or bizarre decisions being made, so who knows what we'll get. Either way, those are my thoughts on the current situation with Fallout 76. I'd love to hear from you guys down below. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you found it informative. But until next time, I hope to see you all later.